Hey everybody, welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another Choosing Beggar Reddit video. I'm really trying to reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers, so if you can help me out in any way, I'd really appreciate it. Also, Slash Bash now has channel members, so check out the join button to find out more. In our first story, two Choosing Beggar brothers beg for a lift to the airport, but then won't follow the basic rules of the car. Will they still make their flight? Let's jump right in. A while back this one. Some background though. I'd once driven a friend who didn't wear their seatbelt and copped a $300 fine for it. On to the story. The two sons of a family friend needed a lift to the airport early one morning for a long planned trip. I lived about 10 minutes from their place, and the 30-mile trip I was taking to work each day took me right past the airport, though it was in the opposite direction. So it was a bit of extra time out of my morning, 15 miles to the west to pick up the sons, then 45 miles east instead of 30, but they begged and they both phoned me, so I said I was good to give them a lift. I turned up in the morning and loaded up their gear. The sons both got into the car and said goodbye to their parents, and we took off. We drove a few miles up the freeway, and my seatbelt alert started to ping. Danny, son number one, who's 24, who was sitting in the front seat, had taken off his seatbelt. When I asked him to put it back on, he goes, "Nah, I don't do seatbelts." So I pulled over. I looked back at Jeff, the other son, in the back seat, which didn't have alarms, and sure enough, he'd taken off his seatbelt too. Then the arguing started. I was blunt as I could be that I was not risking my driver's license and my money from getting a ticket. I was just giving them a free lift, which I didn't care about one way or another. The argument went roughly as follows. It's paraphrased because it was years ago, but both of the boys were in on it. "I'm not moving this car until your seatbelts are on. I've been fined once before and I'm not doing it again." "I told you, I don't do seatbelts. Dad's okay with it." "Well, I'm not. And you, Jeff, put yours on too. I'm not moving until they're on." "Do you have any idea how dangerous seatbelts are in an accident?" I just blink. Danny then puts his seatbelt behind him and clicks it in. "No, Danny, the seatbelt goes around you. Behind you doesn't count. It'll turn off the alarm. Go, you'll see. We really need to get going." "We can go when you put the belt on. I don't give a crap about the alarm. What I care about is a $600 fine that I get if you two don't have your seatbelts on." "Come on, we'll be late." "Your flight's not for another hour and a half. Put your seatbelts on." Danny then calls his dad. He complains that we've stopped. When his dad asks why, Danny explains the situation, and then his dad tells him to just put the seatbelt on. Danny says okay. I guess he didn't realize I'd heard his dad's side of the conversation too, because he told me that his dad said I needed to get a move on. Not until your seatbelts are on. This back and forth continues. It gets to the point that I will be late to work if we don't get going. Danny is all, "Fine then, turn around, I'll get Dad to drive us." "Put your seatbelts on then." "No, I've told you already." "Then we're not moving." I get out my phone and browse idly, showing I'm not moving until their seatbelts go on. Danny phones his dad again. His dad sounds really pissed, but agrees to pick them up. Both sons get out of the car. They take their bags, one slams the door and the boot, and I drive off. Choosy beggars left behind. When I get to work, I get a phone call. Jeff left his main piece of luggage in my car, and they want it dropped off at the airport urgently. They're flying out soon, and they need it now. I tell them to get a taxi, and I'll meet them out back of my work. They start to argue that it's my responsibility to get them the luggage. They continue to argue this point again and again, but I'm not budging. Half an hour later, Jeff turns up in a taxi to get Danny's luggage. I should note here that I really don't know these guys well at all. This was really all a favor I did for their mother. Later that afternoon, I get a phone call from their dad. He says that I've wasted his son's tickets. They weren't able to fly out, couldn't rebook quickly, and now they'll miss half their vacation time. He says it was all my fault for stopping for so long. I try to explain to him as clearly as possible that I wasn't going to risk getting a huge fine, losing my license, and pissing off my employer for a couple of ungrateful idiots who don't like to wear their seatbelts. He didn't take that great. I ended up just hanging up on him. I'm still friends with their mother, who was the original friend of the family, but surprisingly, now things are a bit strained between me and her husband and sons. In story number 2, we have a choosing beggar who comes to a party, complains about everything, and then invites extra people. Aren't we lucky to have her here? I once held a small house party with my closest friends while my parents were away on vacation. My friend messaged me the day before the party, asking if she could bring her friend who was going through some hard times. Feeling a little generous at the time, I said sure. Cue the party and everyone arrives, including my friend's friend, this story's choosing beggar. Off the bat, choosing beggar started complaining about everything. Complaining that we don't have any alcohol, how the food wasn't fancy enough, why we were playing a game she hated, etc. She continually demanded that as the host, I go get some proper food and booze for the party. I explained to her that my friends and I don't like alcohol. I made the food from scratch. Don't like it? Don't eat. And I'm not spending more money on more food when it's unnecessary. We play Smash Ultimate because we all like to play it when we are together. I ended the explanation with, if you don't like what is being served to you, then you're more than welcome to leave and get served somewhere else. She pouted and settled down, giving me the cold shoulder. Half an hour later, I hear the doorbell ring. I was confused for a bit because I wasn't expecting any more guests, so I went to answer the door and there stood 4 people I did not recognize. Stranger number 1. Hey, is Choosing Beggar here? Yeah, why? Cool, then we arrived at the right place. Time to party! They tried to enter the house. Hold up. I never invited you guys. Choosing Beggar invited me, and I invited these guys, pointing at Stranger 2, Stranger 3, and Stranger 4. I'm sorry, but she did not have permission to invite more people to my party. I'm going to have to ask you guys to leave now. What? Come on! We came all the way here to have some fun. Don't be a witch. Now I'm getting a little irritated. Sorry, my house, my rules. You guys aren't invited. Please leave. As I was closing the door, I can hear the strangers talking angrily to boyfriends saying stuff like, "Bro, you totally wasted our time, and you said we're gonna have a free meal." Eventually, I hear them get into their car and drive out. I get back to the party, and first thing I see is a fuming choosing beggar. Why did you chase my boyfriend and his friends away? He wasn't invited. You weren't allowed to invite anyone else. But he's my boyfriend, you witch. Let him and his buddies join. It's my house. I'm allowed to make the rules. And just FYI, the only reason you were invited was because my friend asked me to because you were having a bad time. Don't push the limits of my generosity anymore. Choosing Beggar proceeds to yell profanities and screech. She kept demanding that I let her boyfriend and his buddies join the party, and each time I answered with no. This agitated her more, causing her to start stomping her foot on the floor like a spoiled brat and eventually trying to knock things over. Luckily, my friends were holding her back. Hey, Choosing Beggar, this catches her attention. Call your boyfriend and tell him to come back. What? Really? Yeah, he can come to pick you up. You are no longer allowed to be here anymore. Choosing Beggar just stared at me for a minute to process the fact that I was kicking her out before she continues with her tantrum. I wait for her to take a break before asking if she was done. Then I tell her that she should call her boyfriend soon before I decide to call the cops to have her removed, as she was no longer a guest. She did call her boyfriend, and when he arrived, she left the house with a scowl. I stood outside to watch her boyfriend's car pull in and pick her up before rolling away. Not before she flipped the bird out the window. I came back and had a chat with my friend. She admitted that she wasn't actually a friend but a coworker, and that she won't do that ever again. We continued on with the party, and the rest of the night was great, with food, pop, and smash. This is John from Slash Bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to see more, then please hit that subscribe button. We'd love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.